Hi everybody, today we're in Iowa and we're going to see the Mt Pisgah Monument. And I don't know when the first time was that I saw it. It may have even been before I started my channel. But there's like one picture of it that I've seen where you have this like column. It kind of looks like a obelisk and it looks like a typical thing that you'd see in a cemetery. And it looked interesting, but it didn't seem like there was a whole lot here. But I'm with my wife and my daughter. They took off down the road that way, and then they're gonna come back and pick me up. But we already went down here and I kind of scouted it out a little bit, and there's actually a lot at this site. I just wanted to start the video over here so you could get a sense of the location. It's beautiful. Of course, it looks a lot like Missouri, but like I said the last time that we were in Iowa, I feel like I've noticed some differences between Missouri and Iowa. As you come further north, I feel like there's more conifer trees. I could be wrong about that, but that's just the way that it seems to me. The last time we were in Iowa, we were at that rest stop near Lamoni, the city of Lamoni, which was named after King Lamoni from the Book of Mormon. That city used to be the headquarters of the RLDS, which of course are now Community of Christ. And there's a location there that I want to go back to. So the place that we went that first time in Iowa was a rest stop outside of Lamoni. And they have a historical marker there and a walking trail. Well, this time, so that one is about 2 hours away from Independence. This location is a little over 2.5 hours away. So it wasn't too bad. And thankfully, it's nice and overcast. And when I got out of the van, it said it was 70 degrees, although I did see it dip down into the 60s for a little bit. There's a tiny bit of rain. It's just sprinkling. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. But you take this highway for a ways. You go up I-35 and then you turn off. I can't remember the name of the highway. And then you turn off onto a dirt road and it goes, I don't know, several miles. I mean, it's really back here a ways. But it's nice because I like being out in these rural areas. It's very peaceful. And I don't know a whole lot about this site. We're just at the very beginning of my channel. I don't know how long I'm going to do this channel, probably a while, probably several years at least. But at this first part of my channel, every time I come to a new site, it's mostly just an initial investigation. And as time goes on, I want to learn more and more about the history of these sites. So I haven't read any of the markers yet, although, like I said, I kind of scouted it out. And I know, well, I think I know where all of them are. Okay, so Mt Pisgah Park and Cemetery, Mormon Pioneer National Historic Trail, and then you have the logo for that. I feel like I've seen this before. I don't know if they have, if like part of this goes into Utah itself, but I feel like I've seen this logo or symbol with the cow skull. I feel like I've seen that in Utah. That's where I'm originally from, if you didn't know. My hometown is Murray, Utah. It's just 2 cities south of Salt Lake. You have Salt Lake City itself, and then you have the city of South Salt Lake, and then south of that is Murray. Okay, so we have this memorial or marker right here. I was surprised to see this. In memory, Elder Jared Mont Pullum, Elder Daniel Byron Roundy, Elder Bradley Allen Savage, Elder Jason Ray Christensen. Missionaries serving in the Iowa Des Moines mission of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, killed in an automobile accident January 28th of the year 2000 on Highway 34, 8 miles west of Osceola on the Iowa Mormon Trail. Also killed was Herman J. Heckathorn of Murray. Okay, now that's not Murray, Utah. As we were driving here, I saw a sign for Murray, Iowa. So I don't know, maybe that was one of their investigators or maybe a local church member. So that's tragic and it's very sad, but that is one of those special times to leave this life, is when you're serving as a missionary. We recently were talking about the senior missionary that died at Adam-ondi-Ahman. He was mowing on a steep hill and the mower tipped over. I don't know if anyone else has died there, like as a missionary, or if any of the saints died there. I know there was persecution. Now, I haven't come over here. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to cross this line because it looks like this might start to go on this person's property. There's a sign over there, but it looks like one of those like do not trespass or like warning signs. Okay, so let's just turn around. This site is well maintained. You can see that the grass is all mowed and it's all landscaped. And it's so interesting how this site turned out compared to what I envisioned. Because like I said, I think they pretty much only have pictures of the monument itself. And then there's this blue historical marker up here that we're going to look at in just a minute. But I didn't know about that memorial to those 4 elders that passed away. My best friend in elementary school, he ended up serving in the Des Moines, Iowa mission. Or I guess it's probably called the Iowa Des Moines mission because that's how they do it. I went to the Spain Barcelona mission, so it's like they say the country or state first, and then after that the city where the mission is headquartered. But this is nice. They have this pavilion right here. I'm sure there are times that this gets used probably by local church groups, like maybe for firesides or youth activities. Oh, they have a grill. Oh, and it has something on the side. In memory of Joseph Baker. Huh. Wonder who he was. If you know, please, by all means, put it in the comments below so we can all learn together. And then they have this fire pit. And I did look at this. My wife pointed out that just around the outside of it, you have these inscriptions that says Mt Pisgah, Iowa. I don't know if you can see that. I'll get closer. So Mt Pisgah, Iowa. Over here, we have a husband and wife pulling a handcart. Over here, we have some pine trees. We were just talking about pine trees. We got some more pioneers and hand carts. This one has a child sitting in the back of the hand cart. Let's see, far away in the west. And then another family with a hand cart. And then, let's see, remember the town. Remember the town. Wow, that is neat. There's the main memorial right there. That's what I was talking about when I said that that's like the only picture I've really seen of this place. That, and then this blue historical marker right there. But before we get to that point, you have this boulder up here that has a plaque. So let's go see what that says. Okay. 1846, Mt Pisgah, site of the first white settlement in Union County. Erected by the Nancy McKay Harsh chapter of the Iowa Society, DAR, which is Daughters of the American Revolution. And it has their emblem right here, 1928. Okay. Yeah, the only thing I know about this site is that it was a way station for those early pioneers. I guess as they were making their way from Nauvoo across the plains, which it seemed like the main routes mostly came across Iowa and Nebraska. Although there are there's I think 2 sites, I already forgot. There's 2 sites in Kansas. There was, oh my gosh, how am I forgetting this? The Garden Grove, or I can't remember what it was called, but there was a temporary settlement in Kansas. And I did a video there. Sorry, it's just because I'm like doing this on the fly. Okay, Mormon Pioneer National Historic Trail. Mt Pisgah Road follows the natural ridge line. When the trail travelers arrived, this part of Potawatomi land was open prairie. All right. We are here. There's Nauvoo. We're in Iowa right now. Omaha, that's where winter quarters was. Going across Nebraska, up into Wyoming, and then Salt Lake City. That's where I'm from. In 1846, about 13,500 Mormon pioneers fled Nauvoo, Illinois, in search of religious freedom. They departed in phases to prepare the way for those who would follow. They traveled about 1,300 miles, or 2,100 kilometers, across Iowa into the western mountains. After a difficult trek, the first immigrants arrived in Great Salt Lake Valley in 1847. Thousands more came after. And sorry, I just want to point out, because I just recently learned that my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Levi Harmon Jackman, he lived in Jackson County. I didn't know that I had any ancestors that lived in Jackson County. But later on, you know, he went with the Saints to Nauvoo. I think before that, or at some point, he worked on both the Kirtland Temple and the Nauvoo Temple, although I don't know exactly the order of events. And then he was in that initial, what was called Brigham Young's Vanguard, that entered the valley, the Salt Lake Valley, on July 24th, 1847. So, sorry. I think it's a good idea. If you haven't done much with your family history, go look at it. And don't just look at the data that other people have entered in for their record. Look and see if they have an autobiography or a life sketch, because that's where I found that information out about Levi Harmon Jackman. And I'm going to add that to his details on his Family Search account. In mid-May 1846, they reached Mt Pisgah and were awed by its beauty. At the time, this land was home to the Potawatomi, or Potawatomi, or Bodewadamu. Since time immemorial, the Potawatomi, let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly if you know, had lived in the Great Lakes region. In the early 1800s, the U.S. government forced their removal to Iowa and other states. Here at Mount Pisgah, the western edge of U.S. territory followed a natural ridgeline. The Latter-day Saints built a temporary way station or settlement to the east, right, of this ridgeline. And then they have a code right here that you can scan. It says for audio description of this wayside visit. Did we miss something on the back? No. Okay, here's the blue marker. This is the other picture that I saw online. Mount Pisgah Mormon Pioneer Way Station. Between 300 and 800 Mormon pioneers perished here. Oh my gosh, 300 to 800 from 1846 to 1852. Having been driven from their homes by armed mobs, they stopped here on their westward trek, named it Mount Pisgah after a biblical mountain range, and established a way station. Thousands of acres were cleared, buildings built, and caves dug for shelter until log cabins were constructed, but lack of food and adequate shelter took their toll. In spite of these hardships, Mount Pisgah became a stopping place for an almost endless train of westward bound Mormon pioneers until 1852, when the last Latter-day Saints left and the site was bought by a Henry Peters and named Petersville, of course. The original community was located on the slope in flatlands east of this spot. The cemetery extended down the hill to the west, north and south beyond the railroad tracks. Headstones were long ago removed or destroyed by the elements, but the large monument was erected in 1888. Oh, that was before the dedication of the Salt Lake Temple, and as it was being constructed. Okay, Chief Pied or Pied Rich or Riche, I don't know, tells the spirit of Mount Pisgah. Soon after the Mormons arrived, soon after the Mormons arrived here, the renowned Indian chief, I'm gonna go with Pied Rich, came to bid them welcome and tell them how the Potawatomi Indians had likewise been driven from their homeland in what is now Michigan. Quote, "We must help one another, and the Great Spirit will help us both. Because one suffers and does not deserve it, is no reason he shall suffer always. We may live to see it right yet. If we do not, our children will." Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how here we are in 2025, and there are many of the saints that, after having lived in Utah for generations, have now started to move back to the Midwest, including myself, which was never the plan. A big part of that was the fact that property and homes are so expensive out west, anywhere west of Kansas, I would say. Here's another one on the brink, and it has another code that you can scan. You should be able to do that right now if you want to scan it with your phone as you're watching this, but let's finish this video first and then you can go listen to that. Just kidding, do what you want. Okay, on the brink, the Mormon Pioneer Vanguard Company arrived here. That must be Brigham Young's Vanguard that we were just talking about, that my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a part of. Arrived here in mid-May 1846 on the edge of the United States settled land. With a nearby spring for drinking water, Mount Pisgah was an ideal location for a second camp and resting place. Within a few days, additional immigrant companies arrived. Over 2 weeks, they built cabins and planted several thousand acres of crops for future travelers. Then they continued westward. They crossed the Grand River, and I'm assuming that that's the same Grand River that goes down to Adam-ondi-Ahman. I'll have to double check, but I doubt that there's like 2 Grand Rivers in this area, Iowa and Missouri. They crossed the Grand River off in the distance in front of you. Over 200 Latter-day Saints stayed here to farm the fields and welcome later travelers. The population grew to 700 by summer. This way station provided comfort, but was also sorrowful. In the winter of 1846 to 1847, over 700 immigrants across Iowa died from exposure, malnutrition, and disease. And then we have a picture of Parley P. Pratt. This is May 11th, 1846. Being pleased and excited at the varied beauty before me, I cried out, "This is Mount Pisgah." The view reminded Pratt of the biblical mountain from which Moses first saw the promised land. I really like that. Okay, so let's now make our way down to this monument that is fenced off. And I don't know if you can see back there, you see the cornfield? That looks very much like Adam-ondi-Ahman, like the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman. When I first got here, just like half hour ago, or whenever it was, I saw that and I was like, did we take a wrong turn? Grand River, and then you have like this valley over here. It very much feels, in a way, like Adam-ondi-Ahman. Okay, this monument erected AD 1888 in memory of those members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who died in 1846, 1847, and 1848. During their exodus to seek a home beyond the Rocky Mountains, here interned here is William Huntington, the first presiding elder of the temporary settlement called Pisgah. Lenora Charlotte Snow, daughter of Elder Lorenzo Snow, or Elder Lorenzo VIII. Charlotte Sources or Squires Snow. Isaac Phineas Richards, son of Elder Franklin D. and Jane Snyder Richards. Okay. And then I don't think I'm going to read all of this, but you are welcome to pause and read. Maybe you already know if you've had some ancestors that came through here, or maybe even helped establish it. Okay, let's look at this side. And by the way, I would encourage you to watch my videos in 4K if you're able to. Go to settings, and instead of having YouTube just put it on auto, select the highest resolution, given that your internet is good. There's more names. It's making me wonder if any of these are my ancestors or if I'm related to any of them. I'm not necessarily recognizing any names, but like I feel like I'm pretty familiar with my family tree, with most of the surnames. But as you go, as you know, if you've done family history, you have so many different surnames in your family tree. I always think it's kind of funny when people are like, oh, the Davies family has always da-da-da-da. Well, that's just one line. That's just your patrilineal line. That your father's line, like father, grandfather, great-grandfather, going that way. But you have all your grandmothers, and you have lots of surnames in your family history. I don't know how well you can see it over there. I think there's one more spot where we're going to get a better look at that valley, but it just totally reminds me of Adam-ondi-Ahman. It'd be so interesting if in the future, like in the millennium, if they rebuild the city of Adam-ondi-Ahman and build the temple, and it's going to be like a really holy and sacred place. And then if you have like this similar like sister city over here with its valley and its place in church history, I don't know, I'm just kind of blown away. I I'm really happy that there was so much to see here. I wouldn't have been like disappointed if it was just this blue historical marker and then the memorial back there. It was just a big bonus. Now I want to walk down that way. And by the way, if you come here, they do have restrooms. Oh yeah, there's this sign over here. Let's look at this. Mt Pisgah Park, Union County Conservation Board. Yeah, they just have all sorts of markers and signs and memorials here. Some of them really old, like that one from 1888, some that are a little bit newer. I'd be willing to bet that the blue one is probably from like the 50s or 60s, because it looks similar to other ones that we've seen in Missouri that are dated, and those ones are from that era. Well, 50s, 60s, 70s. And then you have those really new ones that are, you know, have those like colored graphics, and then the memorial to the elders who passed away in the year 2000 while they were on their missions, and then the other person, whoever that was. I'm seeing another grill over there, but I don't see any tables or anything, at least not yet. Let's go take a look. But yeah, there's plenty of parking. I wonder how many people come and visit this. I hope that you do. It might be a little bit more difficult if you're from Utah, Idaho, Arizona, or just somewhere outside the Midwest, unless you're like going on just like a tour, like maybe you have an RV or something like that. But I hope that you can see it if it's feasible. Yeah, this probably hasn't been used in a while. I wonder what happened here. It got hit by a tornado. I'm just kidding, I don't know that. But if you live in the Midwest, if you live in Kansas City, Des Moines, Omaha, then it's probably much easier for you just to make a quick day trip and come here. Maybe go to a few other ones, because you have a bunch of sites that are for the, you know, the Mormon Trail, the trek. Okay, we have something here. Seems that something used to be chained to this. I don't know what. Do you have any idea what would have been here? Yeah, a little thing here to put a bolt through. Okay, I don't know. Oh, but look at, oh my gosh, look at this. I drove down this little street a little bit just to see how far I went, so I kind of got a sense of what's over here, but I did not really stop and look at this view. Oh, this is great. Look at that. That is beautiful. Yeah, please watch my videos in 4K so you can get the most out of my videos. Just do the highest resolution that you can. Yeah, this is very nice. And it's such a great day to do this. Just with a little bit of a sprinkle. Right now it feels like it's probably in the 60s. I think the temperature has dropped. I'm not really good with my flowers. I'm sure that these are not some type of sunflower. Maybe they are. Do you know what these flowers are? I love anything that looks like sunflowers. And I like all types of sunflowers. Oh Here's another view. Let's go down here because it looks like this, if we walk down here, it looks like we might get an even better view. Oh yeah, totally. Totally, totally. It's almost like there's like this little trail back here. Yeah, you could potentially mistake this for Adam-ondi-Ahman. If I took a picture, I think there's a lot of people that would mistake it for Adam-ondi-Ahman. I mean, not if you've been there a lot of times, because like, you know that you don't see, like there's some bales of something right there, like hay bales, and then there's like a white house in the distance. But if you've only been once, or you just kind of generally know what Adam-ondi-Ahman looks like, you might mistake this for Adam-ondi-Ahman. This just wraps around. Okay, yeah. This has turned out to be a really nice trip. Before we go back up there, let's go this way. I'm wondering if this might be an even better view. And yep, it is. Yep, this right here looks like it's probably the best view of this valley. I love that. Yeah, I mean, we were just reading about how they were surprised at how beautiful it is over here. They wanted to name it after Mount Pisgah from the Bible. I could totally see that. I wouldn't mind living here. Now, I probably wouldn't want to, you know, after being expelled from Nauvoo. Whoa, hold on. Oh, there's some headstones here. And these are newer. 1993 and 2004. What's this? Oh, this is 2014. That's really recent. I wonder who owns this land, like this whole memorial site. Who owns it? I would guess the church. And then you have some people that have permission or something to be buried over here, or maybe it's like the family that maintains this place. I have no idea. U.S. Army, Specialist 4. The Army used to have these ranks. I think it went from Specialist 1 to 4. They were enlisted ranks, not officers. They still have specialists. That's actually what I ended my Army career as, was a specialist, but it's not an officer. That's neat. So they kept specialist, which is a E4. Oh, you have the United Nations emblem there because this is a Korean War veteran. Private, also U.S. Army. Robert Brown. Oh, and R. Buck Brown. 1988, 1986. Born 1925, 1964. Oh, you have to wonder. I mean, you have R. Buck Brown, so maybe that stands for Robert, and then maybe this is Robert Sr. Dorothy Brown. William Louis Brown. Oh, now, he was the rebel. He did the U.S. Navy. 1956 to 2004. All right, well, we appreciate your service. All right, and then we just get to this tree line over here. And then when I drove over here, I noticed that it kind of just goes off over there. Caution, minimum maintenance road, level B service, enter at your own risk. So I don't know what else is over there. Obviously nothing having to do with this memorial. Oh, okay, one more view of the valley, although some of it is obscured by those pine trees. Yeah, this is nice. You know, another thing, I don't know if it's because it's raining. I don't know if rain affects cicadas, but I don't hear any cicadas up here. I do hear like crickets and some other bugs. But my gosh, every single video that I film in Missouri, like anywhere in Missouri, you have the cicadas as my guest stars. I have to, like someone pointed out in a recent video, I have to compete with them to be heard. Oh, and then there's, wow, I wonder how old this is. Mormon Trail. Heber Parley Smith. I'm guessing that's an individual. First name Heber, last name Smith. Because you have like Heber C. Kimball, but Heber is his first name. Parley P. Pratt, but Parley is his first name. Joseph Smith or Hiram Smith or anyone, but that's their last name. So I'm gonna guess that this is like some individual. Heber Parley Smith. Wow, I like this sign right here. It is old. I like the the design of the bottom here. It's not just, you know, nondescript wood, like planks of wood or boards, but there is a little bit of artistry here to the bottom. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I sure did. I'm gonna have to hop on Family Search and see if any of my ancestors came through here. Oh, what I was gonna say earlier before we came across those headstones is I don't know that I would enjoy, you know, being kicked out of Nauvoo, coming all the way here, and then having to build a temporary city. That just sounds exhausting. But I know that they did what they had to do, and you know, that's the best way to do it, is have way stations. So, all right, you guys, that's gonna be it for this one. I'll talk to you later.